Hey guys, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense. Wanted to shoot your market update video for you. It's October 30th, just before 9 p.m. my time. So the daily close was about 2 hours ago. So I've got a lot of stuff to cover today, including some big picture stuff and also some short-term stuff. But before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button on this video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. By the way, the funny thing about those thumbs up and thumbs down, I noticed yesterday I did this bearish video, and the video had like 5 thumbs down, which I was kind of happy about because it wasn't my normal 1 thumbs down troll. So it was like, okay, real people are watching this video, good and bad. And then I came back a few hours later to check on the comments on the video, and I noticed that after Bitcoin had dumped $300 or $400, that all of the dislikes were gone except for one. So I guess people didn't like the video, and then once it dumped, they're like, oh, I guess that video was right. So that was kind of funny. Let's talk about Bitcoin, guys. So first things first, before I jump into the charts, I want to talk about big picture stuff because I think that a lot of people, myself included, are probably overly optimistic about crypto. And the more that I've really studied markets, especially recently, the more that I've kind of stepped back and said, okay, am I approaching this as somebody that's like drinking the Kool-Aid, or am I approaching this as somebody that's rational? And I realized that I've probably been drinking a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid, because even though I've been so bearish the last 4 months, I keep talking about crypto and Bitcoin specifically going up to $60,000, $70,000. And guys, really, if you look at the facts, no one's going to like me saying this, but if you look at the facts, that's very unlikely to happen, right? It's very unlikely to happen. Basically, when futures come into markets, what futures do, and most people don't understand this, okay? So let me try to explain this in the simplest way possible. What happened in 2017 was Bitcoin turned into a huge bubble, and the previous bubbles were just kind of like little blips in the radar. They weren't big enough to really cause any type of damage to the economy or anything like that. But the 2017 bubble was so large that it actually drew the attention of people in power. That's what this article right here is actually about. All right. And essentially these people in power saw this getting out of control and getting out of hand. You saw people taking out mortgages to buy Bitcoin, that type of stuff. And they realized that they could potentially have another 2008 type of crisis on their hands if they let it continue, right? If more people got involved and the market cap started, skyrocketing. You got to remember, the market cap reached almost $1 trillion. That's a big deal. So basically, the Trump administration, according to this article, basically popped the bubble on purpose, and the way they did that was by introducing futures. Okay, basically what happens when you introduce futures to a market, you introduce institutional money. Now, the theory or the kind of the narrative in crypto has been institutional money is going to come save the day, and don't sell your coins hodl, because the day the institutions come, we're going to have the biggest green candle ever, and if you're not in there, you're going to just completely miss out. And unfortunately, that narrative got me to hold my coins and take a $200,000 loss, because I kept waiting for I didn't want to sell my coins, because I was like, my luck, I'll sell them, I'll wake up and it'll be up, it'll double overnight or something crazy. But the reality, guys, is CME allowed institutions to invest in crypto, but they just didn't buy it to hold it. What they did was they shorted it. That's what futures does. You basically give people away who don't believe in the market, you give them a way to short it, right? Most people didn't have a way to short Bitcoin prior to 2017. So you had a market that had absolutely no way to bet against it. So when you only have buyers in a market, of course the price is going to continue to skyrocket. But when you introduce futures and you give all these, non-believers, if you will, if you give them an opportunity to bet against the coin, it acts as price suppression. It's not that somebody is actually, like one person is back there pulling the strings saying, oh, we're going to keep the price down. It's just a natural occurrence in markets, because you have, basically a fairly even number of people who believe it's going up, and you have another, fairly even number of people who believe it's going down. And so it tends to kind of flatten out the market, so to speak, right? The bulls are, going to fight hard to keep it, as high as they want, and the bears are going to fight hard to keep it down. And if you look at things like silver, I don't want to go find the fractal, but I posted a silver fractal, silver fractal a few weeks ago, because I think Bitcoin may be doing what silver did, which is basically got its price suppressed. Okay? So with that being said, we don't know for sure how this is going to play out, but basically you guys, you can Google this article if you want. Basically the chairman of the Futures Commission, literally came out and said, we popped the bubble on purpose, right? We introduced futures specifically to rein in the Bitcoin bubble. And it's had that effect, right? And then now we've had this most recent run-up, which I've been calling an echo bubble, and I do think it's an echo bubble. And you notice it didn't get as high as the last one. So this theory that we're automatically going to go to new all-time highs, it's a flawed theory. It's possible, but it's also possible that we never go back to $20,000, and that only happened because, what happened in 2017, if you weren't part of the market then, people were super excited about futures launching. They thought it was going to send the price to $100,000, etc. And so the price pumped from like $5,000 in November or October. I don't remember the dates now, but it pumped from like $5,000 all the way up to $20,000 in like a month, right? A little over a month. And it was basically a buy the rumor, sell the news event. December 17th was the top, and December 18th was the day that futures started trading, right? So also, there was all this nonsense about China, endorsing blockchain and how that was going to send it to the roof. And people were saying, oh yeah, China's endorsing Bitcoin. And as I said a few days ago, blockchain and Bitcoin are not the same thing, not remotely close. This is actually from an article about that China news. And this is from a senior official in the Chinese government, basically. And look what they said, right? Some companies attempt to challenge sovereign currency by issuing Bitcoin or Libra. That's what I was saying the other day. No government is going to let that happen. The decentralized blockchain-based currencies are not supported by sovereign credit and hard to become real wealth. The longtime economics pundit made his comments after Chinese President, I can't pronounce that, Xi Jinping maybe? I hope I'm pronouncing that close to right. Announcement that he would encourage the country's blockchain agenda. Now read this last part. This could pave the way for a launch of China's national digital currency. That's what China is doing. They're going to issue, or they're trying to issue, their own cryptocurrency. They're not going to put money into Bitcoin, guys, because again, doing so would give away control, right? That's what they're talking about up here with this sovereignty stuff, right? They're not going to give away control. They're not going to devalue their own national currency. So instead, they're probably going to move to a national digital currency. And in fact, there's been news come out in the last couple of days that China has banned anti-blockchain ads, but they're also trying to ban people from mining Bitcoin, right? Who mines Bitcoin? Where's the largest amount of Bitcoin mined at? China. What happens if all those miners shut down? The network slows down, right? Now we need the network to speed up if this is going to become a real form of currency. It's already slow. It can't handle transactions. It's not, Visa handles hundreds of thousands of transactions a second, whereas Bitcoin handles like 7, right? So on the bigger time frame, I really think we need to take this stuff into consideration and not get our hopium, not let our hopium get out of control where, I'm going to buy so much because it's going to 100,000, it's going to 50,000, it's going to 1 million, right? All that kind of stuff is very, very dangerous thinking. Also, I keep seeing people, post this stock to flow stuff. I'm going to be very transparent and say I don't know a lot about that, but all I can tell you really is that they're trying to compare data from a market that's a baby, right? 10 years old is not long enough to really extrapolate any type of data from that. And also, they're trying to compare data from 2009 through 2017 to today, when there was no futures and now there are futures. So I'm losing a little bit of my bullishness on the bigger picture. Okay, these calls for $50,000, $70,000, I'm starting to really doubt those. Okay. That being said, the other thing I want to talk about before we jump into charts is HMNY. You guys may or may not have heard of this. Helios and Matheson was the company behind MoviePass, right? So you see people posting ridiculous tweets on Twitter and social media and things like that, talking about how Bitcoin was, such and such price in 2009 and it's such and such price now, right? And they're trying to give you this idea or impression that it's gone up so much it can't go back down. Well, guys, if you look now, this stock went through a reverse split, so the numbers seem a little bit wonky, but just for illustrative purposes, if you look in 2009, you could have bought a share of the stock for $250, right? It was actually about a penny, but they did a 250 reverse split. Anyway, you could have bought a share for about $250. By its peak in 2017, that same share was worth $5,100. Okay, that's a massive return, guys. It's a 20x return on a stock. So everybody was like talking about this being the next Netflix, blah, 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 blah. And so I started watching this stock and it started to crash. And I actually bought about $2,000 worth of stock in May of 2018. Now you can see the price there was supposedly 166 bucks. Again, if you don't know about reverse splits, it's hard to explain, but basically I bought it for 50 cents a share, right? And then later it reverse split. Anyway, comparison, this works, right? So basically I bought it for way less than it was way back here because I'm a crypto guy. So to me, when something gets way low, I'm looking to buy it. So I tried to buy it. I bought about $2,000 worth of it, thinking that I was going to go back up here to this $5,000 stuff. And if you look at it today, it's worth a third of a cent. It's literally, it's worthless. I lost my entire investment, right? My entire $2,000 investment, when I closed the position, I closed it for 2 cents. Okay? My point on this, by the way, this is why I'm not a stock guy. That's why I just day trade stocks. I don't hold stocks. My point being is if you're just going off of price, everything looks good when it's going up, right? It's only when it starts going down that you're like, oh shit, I should have sold that. So Bitcoin could be, in one of these spots after the bubble, right? You just don't know. If you look at a 5-year chart here, look at this, right? It had a huge bubble, it popped, and down to the ground, right? So anyway, price doesn't really determine what the future is going to look like. Let's look at a couple charts. So the first chart I'm going to look at, let's take a look at, let's just do Bitcoin. Okay. So this thing's really, really messy. I'm going to turn RSI off so it's a little less messy. This is basically a 4-hour chart, and basically we're in a smaller descending triangle. Now, I'm going to show you something that might blow your mind here. If you look at these charts on the left and the right, you might think they're the same chart. You might think, okay, why do you have the same chart on both sides? They're not. This chart on the right, this is actually a daily chart for the last 11 months. This chart on the left is actually an hourly chart for the last 12 days, right? In fact, we could smush it up. The last 7 days. So we had the big dump, right? Big dump. We had accumulation, spike, consolidation, spike, consolidation, spike, consolidation, spike, consolidation, spike, spike. And it was weird because this looked like a blow-off top to me, but I thought, man, that's strange. And I didn't actually notice this until today. I was actually looking for short positions, and then I happened to notice this, and I thought, holy cow. I was looking at an hourly chart, and I was like, I've seen this before. And there it was, right? Came down with an A leg, came down with an A leg, up with a B leg, up with a B leg, down with a C leg, right? And the C leg on this should take us down around 8,500 bucks. Now, here's what's even more interesting about this, okay? If you look at this, okay, $8,500 is our 61.8 fib of this move, so that makes sense. But also, when this descending triangle broke, it actually went down 50% of its target. Its target was $3,600 drop. It dropped about 1,800 bucks. It had a 50% drop. This one has a width here of about 1,000 bucks, so it should drop 1,000 from here. But if you take 50% of 1,000, it's about 500 bucks. We can all do the math. And guess what? The support's right around 9 grand, so 500 bucks would be right around 8,500 bucks. So I found this extremely interesting that we put in the exact same pattern on a smaller time frame. So I'm thinking that we could very well, and by the way, if you look, we're right about this point in the triangle right now. How crazy would that be? But if this thing breaks down, it could be that it does something like this, right? Maybe more like this. A little bit of sideways chop, suck people in, then boom, right? And then it could actually very easily shoot back up to retest 94, 9,500 one more time on a wick, and then finally dump, right? And that right there would be maximum pain, guys. And that's what you want to look for in markets, is what's going to cause the most pain, because that's often what happens. Reason being is because if it did that, it would suck in a lot of people who thought it was time to go long. It would go up, they would think they were right. You'd trap a bunch of bulls up here, and then boom, dump, right? You'd stop out the bears who thought it was going down to 6,400. You'd stop them out with this pump, you'd trap some bulls, and then dump. So I'm almost expecting that to happen. And because I'm expecting that or suspecting that might happen, I am going to be hunting for long positions if we get down to 8,500 bucks. Just on a swing trade though, not on a not like a hold position. But I very well may swing trade that. Okay, so I wanted to share that fractal. I can't say fractal. Wow. Fractal. It's not that hard. I can't say fractal today, but I wanted to share this fractal with you guys, okay? So that's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. I think that's very likely to happen. Also, if we look at our bigger picture, guys, I'm seeing people still calling this a bull market. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. This is a descending triangle. You can see here that it's drawn from close to close. So that is a descending triangle. We have RSI making a higher high, price making a lower high. That's hidden bearish divergence. So this still looks really nasty to me. If we draw our price range on this thing, it's about $5,400. So our breakdown target would be, there you have it, down right around 2 grand. Okay, right above this old high that was never retested. So that's kind of what I'm thinking might be the case. And again, maybe this one breaks down 50% as well. And if it does, what did we say that move was? Let's remeasure it. I didn't look. That'd be about $2,700 breakdown. That put us right around, oh wow, look at that. Right down in this gap area here. Okay, so that could be the case. Down around $4,500. Probably get a wick down to fill that in if so. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm very, very bearish. If I look at a 3-day chart, it's the same old story, right? We're still inside of the bear market RSI zone. We came up, tested the top of the zone, and we bounced right off of it. If I look at the weekly chart, we came up and tested this line in the sand, right? It bounces off of it and goes up. It acts as support in a bull market. In a bear market, it acts as resistance. We came down, up, and bounced right off of it. If you guys remember last month in September when this thing first broke south, I actually said that I thought it would come up and retest this line and that would be a perfect short entry. Unfortunately, like I talked about in a few videos earlier, I got impatient when it came up here. I just didn't think it was going to get all the way up there, and I FOMO'd into a short position because I didn't want to miss out. And then, of course, it did go up there and test it and stopped me out. So in the future, I'll be more patient and listen to my own analysis. And when I say I think it's going to go up and test this line, I think I'll just wait for it to test that line. And if it doesn't, then I'll miss the short. But yeah, obviously, if you look at this, when RSI got all the way down to oversold territory, that's really the only time in the last 4 years that it went into oversold territory on the weekly. That was the end of the bear market. So if this does play out and this does end up being another bear market, I would say it's very, very worthwhile to watch RSI and see what's going on with the price action when it gets down to around that 30 RSI level. I mean, look at that. A person could have just bought on RSI alone, right? When RSI got under 30, that's considered oversold. And if they had bought when RSI dropped under 30, they would have bought the week of December 10th, which was the literal bottom, right? Based on an indicator that a lot of people laugh off or shrug off saying it's too simplified, it's too simple to work. Well, it predicted the exact bottom, right? Based on its RSI. So that was interesting. But yeah, again, we were rejected at this line of resistance. We were rejected by our 21-week moving average, which again is supposed to be, let me turn these off so you can see better, supposed to be support in a bull market and resistance in a bear market. You can see there, okay? If we turn the 21-week off and we turn the EMAs on, we can see that our 12 EMA, which is a really nice line of support, see how it supports it? It's actually sitting at 91.55. Price is sitting at 90.97 right now, so it's slipped underneath that. So that's a bearish sign as well. And if we do take a look at a daily chart, let me find the daily again, and we turn on our moving averages, let's just turn on the 50 and the 200, right? People were laughing off this death cross because price went up. They're thinking that it was just going to be a fake out where it just barely touched them and then separated again. Guys, it's now a full-blown death cross, right? Our 50 moving average is now down to 8,796, whereas you can see these over here, whereas our 200 moving average is at 9,026. That means our 50 is now $200 or over 2% underneath our 200. That is a confirmed bear cross, okay? That is a confirmed death cross is what they actually call that, the 50 cross and the 200 like that. Also, if you look, again, I talked about this in yesterday's video. We have this whole area right here where we played around and basically stopped out shorts. We've done the same thing here, which is what I predicted would happen. And guys, if we take a fractal, there it is again. If we take a fractal, I know what it is. I only got about 4 hours of sleep today, and I only got about 4 hours yesterday, so that's catching up to me. But if we take a fractal, again, if we take a fractal of this move from where it retested that line to the drop, Watch this. So we'll just line this up with where we retested. That's pretty close. Let me move it to the front so I can actually see it. Yeah, move that up just a little bit. That would look something like this. If that plays out the same way it played out back here, we get a drop to retest this, up, down, and look at this, where this drop is, right? You guys saw that I didn't do anything weird. All I did was copy it over, right? It would take us right to the bottom of the triangle, bounce off of it, chop, bottom of the triangle, bounce off of it. Look at this. It would be another perfect touch of the top of the triangle, down, sideways, another touch, fake out, up, and finally dump out sometime in December. And that fractal points to $5,500, right? So I don't see any reason to be bullish right now. I definitely don't see any reason to be long. I had a very, very small amount of Bitcoin over on BitMEX. I told you guys that I actually put about 2.5% of my portfolio into Bitcoin so that I could trade on BitMEX. I actually cashed some of that out today. And the reason I did is because I didn't really need it over there. What I did was I kept a quarter of a Bitcoin over there. So, not a quarter, 0.2. I kept 0.2 Bitcoin over on BitMEX, right? I don't think anybody's going to try to like rob me over 0.2 Bitcoin, so I don't mind telling you guys that. So you might be asking yourself, why 0.2 Bitcoin? Here's why, guys. If I've got 0.2 Bitcoin and I'm using BitMEX to day trade, right? I can do my swing trades on Kraken because the fees aren't such an issue when you're doing bigger trades like that. They're an issue on day trades because you're often going for 1%. So if you got a 0.5% fee, right, 0.2% on the buy and 0.2% on the sell, which is 0.4%, right, it really cuts into your profit. But if you're doing a swing trade where you're getting 5-10%, it's not a big deal. So if I'm day trading on BitMEX and I'm using 0.2 Bitcoin, I can do 25x leverage because that would allow me up to 4% slippage, right, one way, or 4% drawdown, and I'm not going to have a 4% stop loss on a day trade. My stop losses are normally 0.5% or under. So I can actually trade. You can see it's 0.2 times 25. I can do 5 Bitcoin trades with 0.2 Bitcoin. That's all I need, right? I don't do bigger trades than that anyway. 5 Bitcoin is about the maximum I do, right? So if I'm doing a 5 Bitcoin trade, I've only got 0.2 Bitcoin exposed. So if Bitcoin suddenly dumps by half, at most I'm going to lose 0.1 Bitcoin, which will be like $900 or whatever. Okay. So that's what I did. I liquidated all of my Bitcoin except for those 0.2 Bitcoin, right? I like to have a little more over there because it gave me a little room so I didn't get liquidated. But I just decided, I'll swing trade on Kraken and I'll do my day trades on BitMEX, okay? Other than that, I actually ended up liquidating some of my alts today, right? And by liquidating, I mean I sold them, right? The alts that I've been holding for a couple of years, I just decided, I'm not going to keep holding those things when I think they're getting ready to drop. So I sold some of my OMG today, and it was actually way up here. And then I actually went long on it right here, but I got stopped out. Once this thing, let's talk about OMG real quick. This actually was putting in a really nice reversal. See this? Down, up. That's a double bottom, or close to double bottom. It's a nice W shape. Technically, I'd like to see this no lower than this, but I decided to go for it because there was bullish divergence here. So it may end up being that this was just a false break, and at this point I suspect it might have been. But what I was doing was I shorted it when it went up here. I think I talked about shorting it in yesterday's video, and by shorting it, what I mean by that is I sold my OMG, right, that I was holding. And then when it came down to this level and bounced off of it, see, that's a perfect retest. I hate this damn stop loss thing. It really gets in the way, but I want to show you where I entered at. So it came down and bounced off of that neckline. And when it started going back up, I actually entered right around 96 cents or so. And then I was up. You can see here, it actually went up. And then I set a stop loss for break even. So if it fell back down to break even, it would kick me out. That's what happened. It fell back down to break even, and it closed the trade. And by the way, it was break even after fees, right? So no long position on that. We'll see what happens with it. I'm keeping an eye, but this looks like it's forming a head and shoulders. And if so, this right here is about a 20 cent move. So if you go from here, 20 cents down would be 73 cents right there. What do we have right here? We got a big old gap. So this target makes perfect sense. Okay, so that's the deal on OMG. On Litecoin, not much has changed. Let's get rid of this line. Ignore RSI. It's got some other stuff on there from a daily chart and everything. On the hourly chart, well, I had a triangle drawn on this. I'm not sure what happened to it. Whatever. Okay. This thing has put in a really nice descending triangle. Me and these triangles, right? God, I love my triangles. This thing is put in a descending triangle, bounce, 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 bounce up and touch the top of it, and I expect it's going to fall out the bottom of it and head on south. So I would be short on Litecoin if I could short Litecoin USD pairs, which I can't. It's not offered on any of the exchanges I trade on. So I think that's what's going on with Litecoin, and again, I suspect that it's probably going to go back down and retest this $48 level. Okay. So bearish there, and yeah, just bear. Entered a short on EOS. That thing's going quite well. So entered it over here. Got in a little early. Didn't really look for the best entry. Just wanted to get in. So moved up against me a little bit, but so far it's moving nicely. And again, I got about a 16% target on that trade, which would go down and fill in this gap. So overall, that is how I feel about the market. The most interesting thing of all really is, I just find this fascinating, how close these are. But I also find this fractal right, no idea where it went. Right here, I find this very interesting too. If we do play out like we played out back here, we would chop around in this a lot longer than people expect. A lot of shorts would get chopped up in this action, longs would get chopped up in this action, and then we'd finally dump out in December. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please be sure and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget that I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. So nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing in this video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence before making any type of investment. Don't forget you can check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, and also where you can join my absolutely free Facebook group. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.